To begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black. The cobble streets silent, and the hunched quarters and rabbit's wood limping invisible down to the slow black, crow-black fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles, or blind as Captain Cat there in the muffled middle by the pump and the town clock, the shops in morning, the welfare hall in widow's weeds, and all the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush. The babies are sleeping, the farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, schoolteacher, postman and publican, the undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the webfoot cocklewomen and the tidy wives. Young girls lie bedded soft or glide in their dreams, with rings and trousseaux, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked, or of the bucking ranches of the night and the jolly Rogered sea, and the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope sly, streaking and needling on the one cloud of the roofs. You can hear the dew falling, and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town fast and slow asleep. And you alone can hear the invisible starfall, the darkest before dawn minutely dew-graced stir of the black dab-filled sea, where the Arethusa, the curlew and the skylark, Zanzibar, Rhiannon, the rover, the cormorant and the star of Wales tilt and ride. Listen. It is night moving in the streets, the processional salt, slow, musical wind in Coronation Street and Cockle Row. It is the grass growing on Llaragab Hill, dewfall, starfall, the sleep of birds in Milkwood. Listen. It is night in the chill squat chapel, hymning in bonnet and brooch and bombazine black, butterfly choker and bootlace bow, coughing like nannycuts, sucking mintos, 40 winking hallelujah. Night in the foray, quiet as a domino, in Ochie milkman's lofts like a mouse with gloves, in Dye-bread's bakery, flying like black flour. It is tonight in the donkey streets, trotting silence with seaweed on its hooves along the cockled cobbles, past curtained fern pot, text and trinkets, harmonium, holy dresser, watercolours done by hand, china dog, and rosy tinty gaddy. It is night, neddying among the snuggeries of babies. Look. It is night, dumbly, royally winding through the coronation cherry trees, going through the graveyard of Bethesda, with winds gloved and folded, and dew-doffed, tumbling by the sailor's arms. Time passes. Listen. Time passes. Come closer now. Only you can hear the houses sleeping, the streets in the slow, deep salt and silent black bandaged night. Only you can see in the blinded bedrooms the combs and petticoats over the chairs, the jugs and basins, the glasses of teeth, thou shalt not on the wall, and the yellowing dicky bird watching pictures of the dead. Only you can hear and see behind the eyes of the sleepers the movements and countries and mazes and colors and dismays and rainbows and tunes and wishes and flight and fall and despairs and big seas of their dreams. From where you are, you can hear their dreams. Captain Cat, the retired blind sea captain, asleep in his bunk in the sea-shelled, ship-bottled, ship-shape best cabin of schooner house, dreams of
never such seas as any that swamped the decks of his SS Kidwelly, bellying over the bedclothes and jellyfish slippery, sucking him down salt deep into the davy dark, where the fish come biting out and nibble him down to his wishbone, and the long drowned nuzzle up to him.
Remember me, Captain?
You're Dancing William.
I lost my step in Nantucket.
Do you see me, Captain? The white bone talking. I am Tom Fred, the donkey man. We shared the same girl once. Her name was Mrs. Probert.
Rosie Probert, 33 Duck Lane. Come up, boys. I'm dead. Hold me, Captain. I'm Jonah Jarvis. Come to a bad end. Very enjoyable.
Alfred Pomeroy Jones, sea lawyer, born in mumbles, sung like a linnet, crowned with a flagon, tattooed with mermaids, thirst like a dredger, guide of the skull at your ear hole is.
Curly Bevan. Tell my auntie it was me that pawned the Ormolu clock.
Aye, aye, Curly.
Tell my missus, no, I never.
I never done what she said, I never.
Yes, they did.
And who brings coconuts and shawls and parrots to my Gwen now?
How's it above?
Is there rum and lava bread?
Bosoms and robins,
Concertinas,
Ebenezer's bell,
fighting and onions,
And sparrows and daisies.
tiddlers and a jam jar,
buttermilk and whippets,
rockabye baby.
washing on
And old girls in the snug.
How's the tenors in
who
Dowley?
milks the cows in Nazgul?
When she smiles, is there dimples?
What's the smell of parsley? Oh, my dead dears. From where you are, you can hear in Cockle Row in the spring moonless night Miss Price, dressmaker and sweet shopkeeper, dream of her lover. Tall as the town clock tower, Samson syrup gold-maned, whacking-thighed and piping hot, thunderbolt-based and barnacle-breasted, flailing up the cockles with his eyes like blow-lamps, and scooping low over her lonely, loving, hot-water-bottled body. Mafanwy Price!
Mr. Mogg Edwards.
I am a draper and mad with love. I love you more than all the flannelette and calico, candlewick, dimity, crash and merino, tussore, creton, crepon, muslin, poplin, ticking and twill in the whole cloth, all of the world. I have come to take you away to my emporium on the hill, where the change hums on wires. Throw away your little bed socks and your Welsh wool knitted jacket. I will warm the sheets like an electric toaster. I will lie by your side like the Sunday rose.
I will knit you a wallet of forget-me-not blue for the money to be comfy. I will warm your heart by the fire so that you can slip it in under your vest when the shop is closed.
Mafanwy, oh Mafanwy, before the mice snore at your bottom drawer, will you say,
Yes, Mogg. Yes,
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And all the bells of the tills of the town shall ring for our wedding.
Come now. Drift up the dark. Come up the drifting sea dark street, now in the dark night seesawing like the sea. To the Bible black airless attic over Jack Black the cobbler's shop, where alone and savagely Jack Black sleeps in a nightshirt tied to his ankles with elastic, and dreams of
Chasing the naughty couples down the grass-green gooseberried double bed of the wood, flogging the tosspots in the spit and sawdust, driving out the bare bold girls from the sixpenny hops of his nightmares. Aki fee!
the dead, the undertaker.
Laughs high and aloud in his sleep, and curls up his toes as he sees, upon waking 50 years ago, snow lie deep on the goose field behind the sleeping house, and he runs out into the field where his mother is making Welsh cakes in the snow, and steals a fistful of snowflakes and currants, and climbs back to bed to eat them cold and sweet under the warm white clothes, while his mother dances in the snow kitchen, crying out for her lost currants.
And in the little pink-eyed cottage next to the undertaker's lie alone the 17 snoring gentle stone of Mr. Waldo, rabbit catcher, barber, herbalist, cat doctor, quack, his fat pink hands palms up over the edge of the patchwork quilt, his black boots neat and tidy in the washing basin, his bowler on a nail above the bed, a milk stout and a slice of cold bread pudding under the pillow, and, dripping in the dark, he dreams of...
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef, and this little piggy had none. And this little piggy went all the way home.
Waldo, Waldo!
Yes, blood one love?
Oh, what'll the neighbors say? What'll the neighbors?
Poor Mrs. Wall, what she puts up with. Never should have married if she didn't have to. Same as her mother. There's a husband for you. Bad as his father. And you know where he ended up, in the asylum, crying for his ma every Saturday. He hasn't got a leg. And carrying on that Mrs. Beatty Morris up in the quarry, and seeing her baby, it's got his nose. Oh, it makes my heart bleed. What he'll do for drink. He sold the pianola and her sewing machine, falling in the gutter, talking to the lamp post, using language, singing in the W. Poor Mrs. Waldo.
Oh, Waldo, Waldo.
Hush, love, hush. I'm widower Waldo now.
Waldo, Waldo. Yes, your mum?
Oh, what'll the neighbors say? What'll the neighbors say? Black as a chimney, ringing doorbells, breaking windows, making mud pies, stealing currants, chalking words, soaring in the bushes, playing muchins. Send him to bed without any supper. Give him centrepots and lock him in the dark. Off to the reformatory, off to the reformatory. Learn him with the slipper on his BTM. Waldo, Waldo, what are you doing without Matty?
Give us a kiss, Matty Richards.
Give us a penny then.
I only got a halfpenny.
Lips is a penny. Will you take this woman, Matty Richards, Dulcie Prothero, Effie Bevan, Lil the Glue Pot, Mrs. Flusher, Blodwin Bowen, to be your awful wedded wife?
No, no, no.
No, in her iceberg white, hollowly laundered crinoline nightgown under the virtuous polar sheets, in her spruced and scoured, dust-defying bedroom in trig and trim Bayview, a house for paying guests at the top of the town. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, widow, twice, of Mr. Ogmore, linoleum, retired, and Mr. Pritchard, famed bookmaker, who, maddened by the besoming, swabbing and scrubbing, the voice of the vacuum cleaner and the fume of polish, ironically swallowed disinfectant, fidgets in her rinsed sleep, wakes in a dream, and nudges in the ribs dead Mr. Ogmore, dead Mr. Pritchard, ghostly on either side.
Mr. Ogmore, Mr. Pritchard, it is time to inhale your balls.
Oh, Mrs. Ogmore.
Oh,
Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it will be time to get up. Tell me your tasks, in order.
I must put my pajamas in the drawer marked pajamas. I must take my cold bath, which is good for me. I must wear my flannel band to ward off sciatica. I must dress behind the curtain and put on my apron. I must blow my nose.
In the garden, if you please.
A piece of tissue paper which I afterwards burn. I must take my salts, which are nature's I must boil the drinking water because of germs. I must make my herb tea, which is free from tannin, and have a charcoal biscuit, which is good for me. I may smoke one pipe of asthma
In the woodshed, if you please.
and dust the parlour and spray the canary. I must put on rubber gloves and search the peak. I must dust the blinds, and then I must raise them. And before you let the sun in, mind it wipes its shoes. In Butcher Bainan's, Gossamer Bainan, daughter, schoolteacher, dreaming deep, daintily ferrets under a fluttering hummock of chicken's feathers, in a slaughterhouse that has chintz curtains and a three-pieced suite, and finds, with no surprise, a small, rough, ready man with a bushy tail winking in a paper carrier.
At last, my love.
Sighs Gossamer Bainan, and the bushy tail wags rude and ginger.
Old prize organ Morgan, the organist, in his dream. There is perturbation and music in Coronation Street. All the spouses are honking like geese, and the baby's singing opera. P.C. Attila Reese has got his truncheon out and is playing cadenzas by the pump. The cows from Sunday Meadow ring like reindeer, and on the roof of Handel Villa see the women's welfare hoofing bloomed in the moon.
At the sea end of town, Mr. and Mrs. Floyd, the Cocklers, are sleeping as quiet as death, side by a wrinkled side, toothless, salt and brown, like two old kippers in a box. And high above, in Salt Lake Farm, Mr. Utah Watkins counts all night the wife-faced sheep as they leap the fences on the hill, smiling and knitting and bleating, just like Mrs. Utah Watkins. 34, 35, 36, 48, 89.
Knit one, slip one, knit two together. Pass the slip stitch over.
Ocky Milkman, drowned asleep in Cockle Street, is emptying his churns into the dewy river,
Regardless of expense.
and weeping like a funeral.
Cherry Owen, next door, lifts a tankard to his lips, and nothing flows out of it. He shakes the tankard. It turns into a fish. He drinks the fish.
P.C. Attila Rees lumps out of bed, dead to the dark and still foghorning, and drags out his helmet from under the bed. But deep in the backyard lock-up of his sleep, a mean voice murmurs,
You'll be sorry for this in the
and
morning.
he heave-hoes back to bed, his helmet swashes in the dark.
Willy-nilly, postman, asleep up street, walks 14 miles to deliver the post, as he does every day of the night, and rat-a-tats hard and sharp on Mrs. Willy-nilly. Don't spank me, please, teacher, whimpers his wife at his side. But every night of her married life she has been late for school.
Sinbad sailors over the tap room of the Sailor's Arms, hugs his damp pillow, whose secret name is Gossamer Bainan. A mogul catches Lily Smalls in the wash house.
Oh, you old mogul! Mrs. Rose Cottage's eldest, May, peels off her pink and white skin in a furnace, in a tower, in a cave, in a waterfall, in a wood, and waits there raw as an onion for Mr. Right to leap up the burning tall hollow splashes of leaves like a brilliantined trout. Call me Dolores, like they do in the stories.
Alone until she dies, Bessie Bighead, hired help, born in the workhouse, smelling of the cowshed, snores bass and gruff on a couch of straw or in a loft in Salt Lake Farm, and picks a posy of daisies in Sunday Meadow to put on the grave of Gomer Owen, who kissed her once by the pigsty when she wasn't looking, and never kissed her again, although she was looking all the time. And the inspectors of cruelty fly down into Mrs. Butcher Brynan's dream to persecute Mr. Bainan for selling
owl's meat, dog's eyes, man chopped in Butcher's bloodied apron. Spring heels down Coronation Street, a finger, not his own, in his mouth. Straight-faced in his cunning sleep, he pulls the legs of his dreams, and, hunting on pigback, shoots down the wild giblets. Help! My foxy darling.
now behind the eyes and secrets of the dreamers in the streets, rocked to sleep by the sea. See the
Titbits and topsy-turvies, bobs and button-tops, bags and bones, ash and rind and dandruff and nail-parings, saliva and snowflakes, molted feathers of dreams, the wrecks and sprats and shells and fish bones, whale juice and moonshine and small salt fry, dished up by the hidden sea.
The owls are hunting. Look! Over Bethesda gravestones, one hoots and swoops and catches a mouse by Hannah Reese, beloved wife. And in Coronation Street, which you alone can see, it is so dark under the chapel in the skies, the Reverend Eli Jenkins, poet, preacher, turns in his deep towards dawn sleep and dreams of
Estefero, he intricately rhymes to the music of Cruth and Pipgon, all night long in his druid seedy nighty, in a beer tint black with parches.
Mr. Pugh, schoolmaster, fathoms asleep, pretends to be sleeping, spies foxy around the droop of his nightcap, and psst, whistles up.
Murder!
Mrs. Organ Morgan, groceress, coiled grey like a dormouse, her paws to her ears conjures.
Silence. She sleeps very dulcet in a cove of wool, and trumpeting Organ Morgan at her side snores no louder than a spider.
Marianne Sailors dreams of.
The Garden of Eden.
She comes in her smock frock and clogs,
away from the cool scrubbed coupled kitchen with the Sunday school pictures on the whitewashed wall and the farmer's almanac hanging above the settle and the sides of bacon on the ceiling hooks, and goes down the cockle-shelled paths of that apple pie kitchen garden, ducking under the Jippos' clothes pegs and catching her apron on the black currant bushes, past bean rows and onioned bed and tomatoes ripening on the wall towards the old man playing the harmonium in the orchard, and sits down on the grass at his side and shells the green peas that grow up through the lap of her frock that brushes the dew.
in Donkey Street, so furred with sleep, Dye Bread, Polly Garter, No Good Boyo, and Lord Cutglass sigh before the dawn that is about to be, and dream of
Harems, babies, nothing. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock,
time
tick-tock.
passes. Listen, time passes. An owl flies home past Bethesda to a chapel in an oak, and the dawn inches up. Stand on this hill. This is Largo Hill, old as the hills, high, cool, and green. And from this small circle of stones, made not by druids, but by Mrs. Bainan's Billy, You can see all the town below you sleeping in the first of the dawn. You can hear the lovesick wood pigeons mooning in bed. A dog barks in his sleep farmyards away. The town ripples like a lake in the waking haze.
Less than 500 souls inhabit the 3 quaint streets and the few narrow by-lanes and scattered farmsteads that constitute this small, decaying watering place, which may indeed be called a backwater of life, without disrespect to its natives, who possess to this day a salty individuality of their own. The main street, Coronation Street, consists for the most part of humble 2-storied houses, many of which attempt to achieve some measure of gaiety by prinking themselves out in crude colours and by the liberal use of pink wash. Though there are remaining a few 18th century houses of more pretension, if, on the whole, in a sad state of disrepair. Though there is little to attract the hill climber, the health seeker, the sportsman, or the week-ending motorist, the contemplative may, if sufficiently attracted to spare it some leisurely hours, find in its cobbled streets and its little fishing harbour, in its several curious customs, and in the conversation of its local characters, some of that picturesque sense of the past, so frequently lacking in towns and villages which have kept more abreast of the times. The one place of worship, with its neglected graveyard, is of no architectural interest. The River Dewey is said to abound in trouts, but is much poached.
The principality of the sky lightens now over our green hill into the spring morning, larked and crowed and belling. Who pulls the town hall bell rope but blind Captain Cat? One by one, the sleepers are wrung out of sleep this one morning, as every morning, and soon you shall see the chimneys slow up-flying snow as Captain Cat, in sailor's cap and sea boots, announces today with his loud get-out-of-bed bell.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins, in Bethesda House, gropes out of bed into his preacher's black, combs back his bard's white hair, forgets to wash, pads barefoot downstairs, opens the front door, stands in the doorway, and looking out at the day and up at the eternal hill, and hearing the sea break and the gap of birds, remembers his own verses and tells them softly to empty Coronation Street that is rising and raising its blinds. Dear Gwalia, I know there are towns lovelier than ours, and fairer hills and loftier far, and groves more full of flowers, and boskier woods more blithe with spring, and bright with birds adorning, and sweeter bards than I to sing their praise this beauteous morning. By Carolidris tempest torn, O moor Lewifa's glory, Caneth Llewellyn, beauty born, Plinlimmon, old in story. By mountains where King Arthur dreams, by Penmanoir defiant, Llargab hill a molehill seems, a pygmy to a giant. By Soda, Senny, Dovey, Dee, Edva, Eden, Aleth, all Taff and Towy broad and free, Liffnant with its own waterfall. Clairven, Clairthal, Dolay, Dor, Eli, Gwilly, Ogre, Ned small is our river dewy lord, a baby on a rushing bed. By Carreg Ken, king of time, our heron head is only a bit of stone with seaweed spread, where gulls come to be lonely. A tiny dingle is Milkwood, by golden grove neath Crongar. But let me choose, and oh, I should love all my life and longer to stroll among our trees and stay in Goosegog Lane on Donkey Down and hear the Jewy sing all day and never leave the town. The Reverend Jenkins closes the front door. His morning service is over.
Now, woken at last by the out-of-bed sleepy head, Polly put the kettle on town hall bell. Lily Smalls, Mr. Bainen's treasure, comes downstairs from a dream of royalty, who all night long went larking with her full of sauce in Milkwood Dark, and puts the kettle on the Primus ring in Mrs. Bainen's kitchen, and looks at herself in Mr. Bainen's shaving glass over the sink and sees.
Oh, there's a face. Where you get that hair from? Got it from an old tomcat. Give it back then, love. Oh, there's a perm. Where you get that nose from, Lily? Got it from my father, silly. You've got it on upside down. Oh, there's a conk. Look at your complexion. Oh, no, you look. Needs a bit of makeup. Needs a veil. Oh, there's glamour. Where you get that smile, Lil? Never you mind, girl. Nobody loves you. That's what you think. Who is it loves you? Shan't tell. Come on, Lily. Cross your heart, Lily. Cross my heart.
Very softly, her lips almost touching her reflection, she breathes the name and clouds the shaving glass.
Lily? Yes, Mum? Where's my tea, girl? Where do you think? In the cat box. Coming up, Mum.
Mr. Pugh in the schoolhouse opposite takes up the morning tea to Mrs. Pugh and whispers on the stairs.
Here's your arsenic, dear, and your weed killer biscuit. I've throttled your parakeet. I've spat in the vases. I've put cheese in the mouseholes. Here's your iced tea, dear. Too much sugar. You haven't tasted it yet. Too much milk, then. Has Mr. Jenkins said his poetry? Yes, dear. Then it's time to get up. Give me my glasses. No, not my reading glasses. I want to look out. I want to see.
Lily Smalls, the treasure, down on her red knees, washing the front step.
She's tucked her dress into her bloomers of the baggage. PC artilleries, ox broad, barge booted, stamping out of handcuff house in the heavy beef red half, black browed under his damp helmet. He's going to arrest Polygata, ach my word for dear, for having babies. And lumbering down towards the strand to see that the sea is still there.
Mary Ann sailors, opening her bedroom window above the tap room and calling out to the heavens.
I'm 85 years, 3 months and a day. I will say this for her, she never makes a mistake.
Organ the Morgan, at his bedroom window, playing chords on the sill to the morning fishwife gulls who, heckling over Donkey Street, observe
me, dye bread, hurrying to the bakery, pushing in my shirt tails, buttoning my waistcoat. Ping goes a button. Why can't they sew them? No time for breakfast, nothing for breakfast. There's wives for you. Me, Mrs. Dye Bread 1, capped and shawled and no old corset. Nice to be comfy, nice to be nice, clogging on the cobbles to stir up a neighbour. Oh, Mrs. Sarah, can you spare a loaf, love? Dye Bread forgot the bread. There's a lovely morning. How's your boils this morning? Well, isn't that good news now? It's a change to sit down. Ta, Mrs. Sarah. Me, Mrs. Dye Bread 2. Gypsied to kill in a silky scarlet petticoat above my knees. Dirty, pretty knees. See my body through my petticoat, brown as a berry. High-heeled shoes with one heel missing. Tortoiseshell comb in my bright black slinky hair. Nothing else at all but a dab of scent. Lolling gaudy at the doorway. tell your fortune in the tea leaves, scowling at the sunshine, lighting up my pipe. Me, Lord Cutglass, in an old frock coat, belonged to Eli Jenkins, and a pair of postman's trousers from Bethesda Jumbo, running out of doors to empty slops. Mind their rover, and then running in again. Tick-tock, me, no good boyo, up to no good in the washer.
Me, Miss Price, in my pretty print housecoat, deft at the clothesline, natty as a jenny wren, then pit-pat back to my egg in its cosy, my crisp toast fingers, my homemade plum and butter pat.
Me, Polly Garter, under the washing line, giving the breast in the garden to my bonny new baby. Nothing grows in our garden, only washing and babies. And where's their fathers live, my love? Over the hills and far away. You're looking up at me now. I know what you're thinking, you poor little milky creature. You're thinking you're no better than you should be, Polly, and that's good enough for me. Oh, isn't life a terrible thing? Thank God.
Now frying pans, spits, kettles, and cats purr in the kitchen. The town smells of seaweed and breakfast all the way down from Bayview, where Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, in smock and turban, big besomed to engage the dust, picks at her starchless bread and sips lemon-rind tea. To Bottom Cottage, where Mr. Waldo, in bowler and bib, gobbles his bubble and squeak and kippers and swigs from the sauce bottle. Mary Ann Sailor.
Praises the Lord who made porridge.
Mr. Pugh.
Remembers ground glass as he juggles his omelette.
Mrs. Pugh.
Nags at the salt cellar.
Willie Nilly Postman.
Downs his last bucket of black brackish tea and rumbles out bandy to the clucking back where the hens twitch and grieve for their tea-soaked sops.
Mrs. Willy Nilly.
Full of tea to her double-chinned brim, broods and bubbles over her coven of kettles on the hissing hot range, always ready to steam open the main.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins.
Finds a rhyme and dips his pen in his cocoa.
Lord Cutglass in his ticking kitchen.
Scampers from clock to clock, a bunch of clock keys in one hand, a fish head in the other.
Captain Cat in his galley. Blind and fine-fingered, save as his sea fry. Mr. and Mrs. Cherry Owen in their Donkey Street room that is bedroom, parlour, kitchen and scullery. Sit down to last night's supper of onions boiled in their overcoats and broth of spuds and bacon, rind and leeks and bones.
See that smudge on the wall by the picture of Auntie Blossom? That's where you threw the sago. You only missed me by an inch. I always miss Auntie Blossom too. Remember last night? In you reeled my boy, as drunk as a deacon, with a big wet bucket and a fish frail full of stout. And you looked at me and you said, God has come home, you said. And then over the bucket you went, sprawling and bawling, and the floor was all flagons and eels. And then you took off your trousers and you said, does anybody want to fight? Oh, you old bug, give me a kiss. And then you sang Bread of Heaven, tenor and bass. Bread of Heaven. And then you did a little dance. I did. And then what did I do? Then you cried like a baby and said you were a poor drunk orphan with nowhere to go but the grave. And what did I do next, my dear? Then you danced on the table all over again and said you were King Solomon and I was your Mrs. Sheba. And then I got you into bed and you snored all night like a brewery.
From Bain and Butcher's in Coronation Street, the smell of fried liver sidles out with onions on its breath. And listen, in the dark breakfast room behind the shop, Mr. and Mrs. Bain, waited upon by their treasure, enjoy between bites their every morning hullabaloo. and Mrs. Bain slips the gristly bits under the tasselled tablecloth to her fat cat.
She likes the liver, Ben. She ought to do best. It's her brother's. Oh, do you hear that, Lily? Yes, Mum. We're eating pussycat. Yes, Mum. Oh, you cat butcher. 'Twas Dr. Demine. What's that got to do with it? Yesterday we had more. Oh, Lily. Monday, otter. Tuesday, shrews. Go on, Mrs. Bainin. He's the biggest liar in town. Don't you dare say that about Mr. Bainin. Everybody knows it, Mum. Mr. Bainin never tells a lie. Do you, Ben? No, Bess. And now I am going out after the corgis with my little cleaver. Oh, Lily.
Up the street, in the Sailor's Arms, Sinbad Sailors, grandson of Mary Ann Sailors, draws a pint in the sunlit bar. The ship's clock in the bar says 11:30. 11:30 is opening time. The hands of the clock have stayed still at 11:30 for 50 years. It is always opening time in the Sailor's Arms.
Here's to me, Sinbad.
All over town, babies and old men are cleaned and put into their broken prams and wheeled onto the sunlit, cockled cobbles, or out into the backyards under the dancing underclothes, and left. A baby cries.
I want my pipe and he wants his bottle.
Noses are wiped, heads picked, hair combed, paws scrubbed, ears boxed, and the children shrilled off to school.
Fishermen grumble to their nets. No good boyo goes out in the dinghy, Zanzibar, ships the oars, drifts slowly in the dab-filled bay, and, lying on his back in the unbaled water, among the crab's legs and tangled lines, looks up at the spring sky. I don't know who's up there, and I don't care.
He turns his head and looks up at Clarigab Hill, and sees among the green leathered trees the white houses of the strewn-away farms, where farm boys whistle, dogs shout, cows low, but all too far away for him or you to hear. And in the town, the shops squeak open. Mr. Edwards, in butterfly collar and straw hat at the doorway of Manchester House, measures with his eye the dawdlers by for striped flannel shirts and shrouds and flowery blouses, and bellows to himself in the darkness behind his eye, "I love you, Miss Price." Syrup is sold in the post office. A car drives to market full of fowls and a farmer. Milk churns stand at Coronation Corner like short silver policemen, and, sitting at the open window of Schooner House, blind Captain Cat hears all the mourning of the town. Maggie Richards, Ricky Reese, Tommy Powell, Al Sal, little Gerwain, Billy Swansea with the dog's voice, one of Mr. Waldo's, Nasty Humphrey, Jackie with the sniff, where's Dickie Alby, and the boys from Type Hunt. Perhaps they got the rush again. Somebody's hit Maggie Richards. 2-1, that's Billy Swansea. Never trust a boy who barks.
Right again, it's Billy.
And the children's voices cry away. That's willy-nilly knocking at Bayview. Rat-a-tat, very soft. The knocker's got a kid glove on. Who's sent a letter to Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard? Careful now. She swabs the front glass. Every step's like a bar of soap. Mind your size 12s. That old Bessie would beeswax the lawn to make the birds slip.
Morning, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
Good morning, postman.
Here's a letter for you, with stamped and addressed envelope enclosed, all the way from Booth Wells. A gentleman wants to study birds, and can he have accommodation for 2 weeks and a bath? Vegetarian? No. You wouldn't know he was in the house, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard. He'd be out in the mornings at the bang of dawn with his bag of breadcrumbs and his little telescope, and come home at all hours covered with feathers. I don't want persons in my nice clean rooms breathing all over the chairs. Cross my heart, he won't breathe. And putting their feet on my carpets, and sneezing on my china, and sleeping in my sheets. He only wants a single bed, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard. And back she goes to the kitchen to polish the potatoes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's Mrs. Hurrell's cottage. What's today? Today she gets the letter from her sister and goes lass. How's the twins' teeth? He's stopping at schoolhouse. Morning, Mrs. Pugh. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard won't have a gentleman in from Buell Wells, because he'll sleep in her sheets. Mrs. Rose Cottage's sister and Gorse Lass's twins have got to have them out. Give me the parcel. It's for Mr. Pugh, Mrs. Pugh. Never you mind what's inside it. A book called Lives of the Great Poisoners. That's Manchester House. Morning, Mr. Edwards. Very small news. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard won't have birds in the house, and Mr. Pugh's bought a book on how to do in Mrs. Pugh. Have you got a letter from her? Miss Price loves you with all her heart. Smelling of lavender today. She's down to the last of the elderflower wine, but the quince jam's bearing up, and she's knitting roses on the doilies. Last week she sold 3 jars of boiled sweets, pound of humbugs, half the box of jelly babies, and 6 coloured photos of Laragab. Yours forever, then 21 X's. Oh, willy-nilly, she's a ruby. Here's my letter. Put it into her hands now. Mr. Waldo, hurrying to the Sailor's Arms. Pint of stout with an egg in it. There's a letter for him. It's another paternity summons, Mr. Waldo.
Quick footsteps hurry on along the cobbles and up 3 steps to the Sailor's Arms.
Quick, Sinbad. Pint of stout, no egg in it.
People are moving now up and down the cobbled street.
All the women are out this morning in the sun. You can tell it's spring. There goes Mrs. Cherry. You can tell her by her trotters. Off she trots, as new as a daisy. Who's that talking by the pump? Mrs. Floyd and Boyle talking flatfish? What can you talk about flatfish? That's Mrs. Diebread 1, waltzing up the street like a jelly. Every time she shakes it, slap, slap, slap. Who's that? Mrs. Butcher Bainan, with her pet black cat. It follows her everywhere, meow and all. There goes Mrs. 23, important. The sun gets up and goes down in her dewlap. When she shuts her eyes, it's night. High heels now, in the morning too. Mrs. Rose Cottage's eldest, May, 17, and never been kissed, oh. Going young and milking under my window to the field with the nanny goats. She reminds me all the way. Can't hear what the women are gabbing round the pump, same as ever. Who's having a baby? Who's blacked whose eye? Seen Polly Garter giving her belly an airing. There should be a law. Seen Mrs. Bainan's new mauve jumper? It's her old grey jumper died. Who's dead? Who's dying? There's a lovely day. Oh, the cost of soap flakes. Morgan's at it early. You can tell it's spring.
And he hears the noise of milk cans.
Ocky milkman on his round. I will say this, his milk's as fresh as the dew. Half dew it is. Snuffle on, Ocky, watering the town. Somebody's coming. Now the voices round the pump can see somebody coming. Hush, there's a hush. You can tell by the noise of the hush, it's Polly Garter. Hello, Polly, who's there? Me, love. That's Polly Garter. Hello, Polly, my love. Can you hear the dumb goose hiss of the wives as they huddle and peck or flounce at a waddle away? Who cuddled you when? Which of their gandering hubbies moaned in Milkwood for your naughty mothering arms and body like a wardrobe, love? Scrub the floors of the welfare hall for the Mothers' Union social dance. Your one mother won't wriggle a roly-poly bum or pat her fat little buttery feet in that wedding-ringed holy tonight, though the waltzing breadwinners snatched from the cosy smoke of the sailors' arms will grizzle and mope. Too late, cock, too late, for the town's half over with its mourning. The morning's busy as bees. There's the clip, clip, clop of horses on the sun-honeyed cobbles of the humming streets, hammering of horseshoes, gobble, quack, and cackle, tom, tit, twitter from the bird-ounced bows, braying on Donkey Down. Bread is baking, pigs are grunting, chop goes the butcher, milk churns bell, tills ring, sheep cough, dogs shout, saws sing. All the spring whinny and morning moo from the clogged dancing farms. The gulls gab and rabble on the boat-bobbing river and sea, and the cockles bubbling in the sand, scampering of sandlings, curlew cry, crow caw, pigeon coo, clock strike, bull bellow, and the ragged gabble of the beer garden school as the women scratch and babble in Mrs. Organ Morgan's general shop, where everything is sold. Custard, buckets, henna, rat traps, shrimp nets, sugar, stamps, confetti, paraffin, hatchets, whistles. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, la-dee-da, got a man in Bulph Wells. He got a little telescope to look at birds. Willy-nilly said. Remember her first husband? He didn't need a telescope. He looked at them undressing through the keyhole, and he used to shout, "Tally-ho!" But Mr. Ogmore was a proper gentleman, even though he hanged his collie. Seen Mrs. Butcher-Bainan? She said Butcher-Bainan put dogs in the mince. Go on. He's pulling a leg. Now, don't you dare tell her that, there's dear. Or she'll think he's trying to pull it off and eat it. There's a nasty lot live here when you come to think. Look at that no-good boyo now. Too lazy to wipe his snout. And going out fishing every day, and all he ever brought back was a Mrs. Samuel. Been in the water a week. And look at Hockby Wilkman's wife, that nobody's ever seen. He keeps her in the cupboard with the empties. Think of dye bread with two wives. One for the daytime, one for the night. Men are brutes on the quiet. And how's Organ Morgan, Mrs. Morgan? You look dead beat. It's organ all the time with him. Up every night until midnight playing the organ. Oh, I'm a martyr to music. Outside, the sun springs down on the rough and tumbling town. It runs through the hedges of Goosegog Lane, cuffing the birds to sing. Spring whips green down Cockle Row, and the shells ring out. Lladegub, this snip of a morning, is wild fruit and warm. The streets, fields, sands and winters springing in the young sun. Evans the Death presses hard with black gloves on the coffin of his breast, in case his heart jumps out. Where's your dignity? Lie down. Spring stirs Gossamer Bainan schoolmistress like spoon. Oh, what can I do? I'll never be refined if I twitch. Spring, this strong morning, foams in a flame in a jack black, as he cobbles a high-heeled shoe for Mrs. Diebread to the gypsy, but he hammers it sternly out. There is no leg belonging to the foot that belongs to this shoe. The sun and the green breeze ship Captain Cat sea memory again. No, I'll take the mulatto, by God, who's captain here. Parlez-vous jig-jig, madame? Marianne sailors says very softly to herself as she looks out at Larragaville from the bedroom where she was born. It is spring in Larragab, in the sun in my old age, and this is the chosen land.
And in willy-nilly the postman's dark and sizzling, damp, tea-coated, misty pigmy kitchen, where the spitting cat kettles throb and hop on the range, Mrs. Willy-nilly steams open Mr. Mogg Edwards' letter to Miss Mafanwy Price and reads it aloud to Willy-nilly by the squint of the spring sun through the one-sealed window running with tears, while the drugged, bedraggled hens at the back door whimper and snivel for the licorice bog black tea.
From a Manchester house, Larragab, sole proprietor, Mr. Mogg Edwards, late of Twill, linen draper, haberdasher, master tailor, costumier, for West End negligee, lingerie, tea gowns, evening dress, trousseaux, layettes, also ready to wear for all occasions, economical outfitting for agricultural employment our specialty, wardrobes bought among our satisfied customers, ministers of religion and JPs, fitting by appointment, advertising weekly in the True Bugle. Beloved Mafanwy Price, my bride in heaven.
I love you until death do us part, and then we shall be together for ever and ever. A new parcel of ribbons has come from Carmarthen today, all the colours of the rainbow. I wish I could tie a ribbon in your hair, a white one, but it cannot be. I dreamed last night you were all dripping wet, and you sat on my lap as the Reverend Jenkins went down the street. I see you got a mermaid in your lap, he said, and he lifted his hat. He is a proper Christian. Not like Cherry Owen, who said you should have thrown it back, he said. Business is very poorly. Polly Garter bought 2 garters with roses, but she never got stockings, so what's the use, I say? Mr. Waldo tried to sell me a woman's nightie, outside. He said he found it, and we know where. I sold a packet of pins to Sinbad's sailors to pick his teeth. If this goes on, I shall be in the workhouse. My heart is in your bosom, and yours is in mine. God be with you always, Mafanwy Price, and keep you lovely for me in his heavenly mansion. I must stop now and remain your eternal Mogg Edwards.
And then a little message with a rubber stamp. Shop at Mogg's.
And willy-nilly, rumbling, jockeys out again to the 3-seated shack called the House of Commons in the back where the hens weep and seas in sudden spring shine.
Herring gulls heckling down to the harbour, where the fishermen spit and prop the morning up, and eye the fishy sea smooth to the sea's end as it lulls in blue. Green and gold money, tobacco, tin, salmon, hats with feathers, pots of fish paste, warmth for the winter to be, weave and leap in it rich and slippery in the flash and shades of fishes through the cold sea streets. But with blue, lazy eyes, the fishermen gaze at that milkmaid whispering water, with no nick or ripple, as though it blew great guns and serpents and typhooned the town.
Too rough for fishing today.
They thank God, and gobbet a gull for luck, and most slow and silent make their way uphill from the still, still sea towards the sailors' arms. As the children
Spank and scamper rough and singing out of school into the draggle-tail yard, and Captain Cat at his window says soft to himself the words of their song. Johnny Crack and Flossie Snail kept their baby in a milking pail. Flossie Snail and Johnny Crack, one would pull it out and one would put it back. Oh, it's my turn now, said Flossie Snail, to take the baby from the milking pail. And it's my turn now, said Johnny Crack, to smack it on the head and to put it back. Johnny Crack and Flossie Snail kept their baby in a milking pail. One would put it back and one would pull it out, and all it had to drink was ale and stout. For Johnny Crack and Flossie Snail always used to say that stout and ale was good for a baby in a milking pail. The music of the spheres is heard distinctly over milk wood. 'tis rustle of spring.
A glee party sings in Bethesda graveyard, gay but muffled.
Vegetables make love above the
And
tenants.
dogs bark blue in the face.
Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard belches in a teeny hanky and chases the sunlight with a fly whisk, but even she cannot drive out the spring from one of the finger bowls. The primrose grows.
Mrs. Diebread 1 and Mrs. Diebread 2 are sitting outside their house in Donkey Lane, one darkly, one plumply blooming in the quick dewy sun. Mrs. Diebread 2 is looking into a crystal ball which she holds in the lap of her dirty yellow petticoat, hard against her hard, dark thigh. Cross my palm with silver, out of our housekeeping money. What do you see, lovey? I see a feather bed with 3 pillows on it, and a text above the bed. I can't read what it says. There's great clouds blowing, and they've blown away. God is love, the text says. That's our bed. It's vanished. The sun's spinning like a top. Who's this coming out of the sun? It's a hairy little man with big pink lips. He's got a wall eye. It's Diebread. The feather bed's floating back. The little man's taking his boots off. He's pulling his shirt over his head. He's beating his chest with fists. He's climbing into bed. Go on. There's 2 women in bed. He looks at them both with his head cocked on one side. He's whistling through his teeth. Now he grips his little arms round one. Which one? I can't see any more. There's great clouds blowing. The mean old clouds.
The morning is all singing. The Reverend Eli Jenkins, busy on his morning calls, stops outside the welfare hall to hear Polly Garter as she scrubs the floors for the Mothers' Union dance tonight.
I loved a man whose name was Tom. He was strong as a bear and 2 yards long. I loved a man whose name was Dick. He was big as a barrel and 3 feet thick. And I loved a man whose name was Harry, 6 feet tall and sweet as a cherry. But the one I loved best, awake or asleep, was little Willie Wee, and he's 6 feet deep. Oh, Tom, Dick, and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But little Willie Wee, who took me on his knee, little Willie Wee was the man for me. Now men from every parish round run after me and roll me on the ground. But whenever I love another man back, Johnny from the hill or Sailing Jack, I always think, as they do what they please, of Tom, Dick, and Harry, who were tall as trees. And most I think, when I'm by their side, of little Willie Wee, who drowned and died. Oh, Tom, Dick, and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But little Willie Wee, who took me on his knee, little Willie Weasel was the man for me. Praise the Lord, we are a musical nation. And the Reverend Jenkins hurries on through the town to visit the sick with jelly and poems.
The town's as full as a lovebird's egg. There goes the Reverend, says Mrs. Waldo, at the smoked herring brown window of the unwashed sailor's arms. With his brolly and his old, fill 'em up, Sinbad, I'm on the treacle today. Silent fishermen flush down their pints.
Oh, Mr. Waldo,
Sighs Sinbad sailors.
I dote on that gossamer Bainan.
Love sings the spring. The bedspring grass bounces under birds' bums and lambs. And Gossamer Bainan, schoolteacher, spoon stirred and quivering, teaches her slubbered Gullion class.
It was a lover and his lass with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no. Now, your accents, children. It was a lover and his lass with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no. Oh, Mr. Waldo.
Says Sinbad sailors.
She's a lady all over.
And Mr. Waldo, who was thinking of a woman soft as Eve and sharp as sciatica to share his bread pudding answers. No lady that I know is.
If only Grandma'd died, cross my heart, I'd go down on my knees, Mr. Waldo. And I'd say, Miss Gossamer, I'd say, when birds do sing, hey ding-a-ding-ding, sweet lovers love the spring. Polly Garter sings, still on her knees. Tom, Dick and Harry were three fine men, and I'll never have such ding-a-ding again.
And the morning school is over, and Captain Cat at his curtained schooner's porthole, open to the spring sun tides, hears the naughty forfeiting children tumble and rhyme on the cobbles.
Gwenny, call the boys, they make such a noise. Boys, 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 come along to me. Boys, boys, kiss Gwenny where she says, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny. Give me a kiss in Goosegog Lane, or give me a penny. What's your name? Billy. Kiss me in Goosegog Lane, Billy, or give me a penny, silly. Gwenny, Gwenny, I kiss you in Goosegog Lane. Now I haven't got to give you a penny. Boys, 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 kiss Gwenny where she says, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny. Kiss me on Larragam Hill, or give me a penny. What's your name? Johnny Cristo. Kiss me on Larragam Hill, Johnny Cristo, or give me a penny, mister. Gwenny, Gwenny, I kiss you on Larragam Hill. Now I haven't got to give you a penny. Boys, 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 kiss Gwenny where she says, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny. Kiss me in the Milkwood, or give me a penny. What's your name? Dickie. Kiss me in Milkwood, Dickie, or give me a penny quick. Gwenny, Gwenny, I can't kiss you in Milkwood. Gwenny, ask him why. Why? Because my mother says I mustn't. Cowardly, cowardly custard. Give Gwenny a penny. Give me a penny. I haven't got any. Put him in the river, up to his liver. Quick, quick, dirty Dick, beat him on the bum with a rhubarb stick. Aye.
And the shrill girls giggle, and master round him and squeal as they clutch and thrash, and he blubbers away downhill with his patched pants falling, and his tear-splashed blush burns all the way as the triumphant bird-like sisters scream with buttons in their claws, and the bully brothers hoot after him with his little nickname, and his mother's shame, and his father's wickedness, with the loose, wild, barefoot woman of the hovels of the hills. It all means nothing at all. And howling for his milky mum, for her caul and buttermilk, and cow breath and Welsh cake, and the fat, birth-smelling bed and moonlit kitchen of her arms, and he'll never forget as he paddles blind home through the weeping end of the world. Then his tormentors tussle and run to the Cockle Street sweet shop, their pennies sticky as honey, to buy from Miss Nathaniel Price, who is cocky and neat as a puff-bosomed robin, and her small round buttocks tight as ticks. Gobstoppers big as wens that rainbow as you suck, brandy balls, wine gums, hundreds and thousands, licorice sweet as sick, nougat to tug and ribbon out like another red rubbery tongue, gum to glue in girls' curls, crimson cough drops to spit blood, ice cream, cornet, standyline and burdock, raspberry and cherryade. Pop goes the weasel and the wind. Gossamer Bane in high heels out of school. The sun hums down through the cotton flowers of her dress into the bell of her heart, and buzzes in the honey there, ouches and kisses, lazy, loving and boozed in her red-berried breast. Eyes run from the trees and windows of the street, steaming gossamer, and strip her to the nipples and the bees.
She blazes naked past the sailor's arms, the only woman on the die-atomed earth. Sinbad sailor's places on her thighs, still dew damp from the first man-growing cock-crow garden, his reverend, ghost-bearded hands. I don't care if he is cold, she whispers to her salad-day deep self. I want to gobble him up. I don't care if he does drop his, she tells the stripped and mother of the world, big-beamed and eve-hipped spring of herself, so long as he's all cucumber and hooves. Sinbad sailors watches her goes by, demure and proud, and schoolmarm in her crisp flower dress and sun-defying hat, with never a look or lilt or wriggle, the butcher's unmelting ice-maiden daughter, veiled forever from the hungry hug of his eyes. Oh, Gossamer Benin, why are you so proud? He grieves to his Guinness. Oh, beautiful, beautiful Gossamer Bee, I wish that you were for me. I wish you were not so educated. She feels his goat beard tickle her in the middle of the world like a tuft of wiry fire, and she turns in a terror of delight away from his whips and whiskery conflagration, and sits down in the kitchen to a plate heaped high with chips and the kidneys of lambs.
In the blind-drawn dark dining room of schoolhouse, dusty and echoing as a dining room in a vault, Mr. and Mrs. Pugh are silent over cold grey cottage pie. Mr. Pugh reads, as he forks the shroud meat in, from Lives of the Great Poisoners. He has bound a plain brown paper cover round the book. Slyly, between slow mouthfuls, he side-spies up at Mrs. Hugh, poisons her with his eye, then goes on reading. He underlines certain passages and smiles in secret.
Persons with manners do not read at table,
says Mrs. Pugh. She swallows a digestive tablet as big as a horsebill, washing it down with clouded pea soup water.
Some persons were brought up in pigsties. Pigs don't read at table, dear.
Bitterly, she flicks dust from the broken crud. It settles on the pie in a thin gnat rain.
Pigs can't read, my dear. I know one who can.
Alone in the hissing laboratory of his wishes, Mr. Pugh minces among bad vats and jeroboams, tiptoes through spinneys of murdering herbs, agony dancing in his crucibles, and mixes, especially for Mrs. Hugh, a venomous porridge unknown to toxicologist, which will scald and viper through her until her ears fall off like figs, her toes grow big and black as balloons, and steam comes screaming out of her navel.
You know best, dear,
says Mr. Hugh, and quick as a flash he ducks her in rat soup.
What's that book by your trough, Mr. Pugh? It's a theological work, my dear. Lives of the great saints.
Mrs. Pugh smiles. An icicle forms in the cold air of the dining vault.
I saw you talking to a saint this morning. Saint Polygata. She was martyred again last night. Mrs. Organ Morgan saw her with Mr. Waldo. And when they saw me, they pretended they were looking for nests, said Mrs. Organ Morgan to her husband, with her mouth full of fish as a pelican's. But you don't go nesting in long combinations, I said to myself, like Mr. Waldo was wearing, and your dress nearly over your head like Polygata's. Oh, they didn't fool me. One big bird gulp and the flounder's gone. She licks her lips and goes stabbing again. And when you think of all those babies she's got, then all I can say is she'd better give up bird nesting. That's all I can say. It isn't the right kind of a hobby at all for a woman that can't say no, even to midgets. Remember Bob Spit? He wasn't any bigger than a baby and he gave her 2. But they're 2 nice boys, I will say that, Fred Spit and Arthur. Sometimes I like Fred best, and sometimes I like Arthur. Who do you like best, Organ? Oh, Bach, without any doubt. Bach every time for me. Organ Morgan, you haven't been listening to a word I said. It's organ, organ all the time with you.
And she bursts into tears, and in the middle of her salty howling nimbly spears a small flatfish and pelicans it whole.
And then Palestrina.
Lord Cutglass, in his kitchen full of time, squats down alone to a dog dish, marked Fido, of peppery fish scraps, and listens to the voices of his 66 clocks, one for each year of his loony age, and watches with love their black and white, moony, loud-lipped faces talking the earth away. Slow clocks, quick clocks, pendulumed heart knocks, china, alarm, grandfather, cuckoo. Clocks shaped like Noah's whirring ark, clocks that bicker in marble ships, clocks in the wombs of glass women, hourglass chimers, to wit to woo clocks, clocks that pluck tunes, Vesuvius clocks, all black bells and lava, Niagara clocks that cataract their ticks, old time-weeping clocks with ebony beards, clocks with no hands, forever drumming out time without ever knowing what time it is. His 66 singers are all set at different hours. Lord Cutglass lives in a house and a life at siege. Any minute or dark day now, the unknown enemy will loot and savage downhill, but they will not catch him napping. 66 different times in his fish slimy kitchen ping, strike, tick, time, and talk.
The lust and lilt and lather and emerald breeze and the crackle of the bird praise and body of spring with its breasts full of rivering May milk means to that lordly fish-head nibbler nothing but another nearness to the tribes and navies of the last black day, who'll sear and pillage down Armageddon Hill to his double-locked, rusty-shuttered, tick-tock, dust-scrabbled shack at the bottom of the town that has fallen head over bells in love. And I'll never have such loving again. Pretty Polly hums and longs. Now when farmers' boys on the first fair day come down from the hills to drink and be gay, before the sun sinks I'll lie there in their arms, for they're good bad boys from the lonely farms. But I always think as we tumble into bed of little Willie Wee, who is dead, dead, dead.
The sunny, slow, lulling afternoon yawns and moons through the dozy town. The sea lolls, laps, and idles in with the fishes sleeping in its lap. The meadows still as Sunday, the shut-eye tasseled bulls, the goat and daisy dingles nap happy and lazy. The dumb duck ponds snooze, clouds sag and pillow on La Rigue Hill. Pigs grunt in a wet wallow bath and smile as they snort and dream. They dream of the acorn swill of the world, the bruiting for pig fruit, the bagpipe dugs of the mother sow, the squeal and snuffle of yeses of the women's pigs in rut. They mud bask and snout in the pig-loving sun, their tails curl, they rollick and slobber and snore to deep, smug, after-swill sleep. Donkeys angelically drowse on Donkey Down.
Persons with manners, snaps cold Mrs. Pugh, do not nod at table.
Mr. Pugh cringes awake. He puts on a soft soaping smile. It is sad and grey under his nicotine, egg-yellow weeping walrus Victorian moustache, worn thick and long in memory of Dr. Crippen.
You should wait until you retire to your sty,
Says Mrs. Pugh,
sweet as a razor. His fawning, measly quarter smile freezes. Sly and silent, he foxes into his chemist's den, and there, in a hiss and Prussic circle of cauldrons and phials, brimful with pox and the Black Death, cooks up a fricassee of deadly nightshade, nicotine, hot frog, cyanide, and bat spit for his needling, stalactite hag and bed nag of a poker-backed nutcracker wife. I beg your pardon, my dear, with a wheedle.
Captain Cat, at his window thrown wide to the sun and the clipped seas he sailed long ago when his eyes were blue and bright, slumbers and voyages, ear-ringed and rolling. I love you, Rosie Probert, tattooed on his belly. He brawls with broken bottles in the fug and babel of the dark dock bars, roves with a herd of short and good-time cows in every naughty port, and twines and salsas with the drowned and blousy-breasted dead. He weeps as he sleeps and sails.
One voice of all he remembers most dearly as his dream buckets down. Lazy, early Rosie, with the flaxen thatch, whom he shared with Tom Fred the donkeyman, and many another seaman. Clearly and near to him speaks from the bedroom of her dust. In that gulf and haven, fleets by the dozen have anchored for the little heaven of the night, but she speaks to Captain Napping Cat alone. Mrs. Probert. From Duck Lane, Jack, quack twice and ask for Rosie, the one love of his sea life that was sardined with women. What seas did you see, Tom Cat, in your sailoring days long, long ago? What sea beasts were in the wavery green when you were my master? I'll tell you the truth. Seas barking like seals, blue seas and green, seas covered with eels and mermen and whales. What seas did you sail, old whaler, when on the blubbery waves between Frisco and Wales you were my bosun? As true as I'm here, dear, you Tom Cat stars, you landlubber Rosie, you cozy love, my easy as easy, my true sweetheart. Seas green as a bean, seas gliding with swans in the seal-barking moon. What seas were rocking, my little deckhand, my favourite husband in your sea boots and hunger, my duck, my whaler, my honey, my daddy, my pretty sugar sailor, with my name on your belly, when you were a boy, long, long ago. I'll tell you no lies. The only sea I saw was the seesaw sea, with you riding on it. Lie down, lie easy. Let me shipwreck in your thigh. Knock twice, Jack, at the door of my grave, and ask for Rosie. Rosie Probert. Remember her. She is forgetting. The earth which filled her mouth is vanishing from her. Remember me. I have forgotten you. I am going into the darkness of the darkness forever. I have forgotten that I was ever born. Look,
says the child to her mother as they pass by the window of Schooner House.
Captain Cat is crying.
Captain Cat is crying.
Come back. Come back.
Up the silences and echoes of the passages of the eternal night.
He's crying all over his nose.
Says the child. Mother and child move on down the street.
He's got a nose like strawberries.
The child says. And then she forgets him too. She sees in the still middle of the blue-bagged bay no good boyo fishing from the Zanzibar.
No good boyo gave me 3 pennies yesterday, but I wouldn't.
The child tells her mother.
Boyle catches a whalebone corset. It's all he has caught all day. Bloody fine fish. Mrs. Diebread, too, gypsies up his mind, slow-eyed, dressed only in a bangle. She's wearing her nightgown. Would you like this nice wet corset, Mrs. Diebread, too? No, I won't. And a bite of my little apples with no hope.
She shakes her brass nightgown, and he chases her out of his mind. And when he comes gusting back, there in the bloodshot centre of his eye, a geisha girl grins and bows in a kimono of rice paper.
I want to be good, Boyle, but nobody'll let me.
He sighs as she writhes politely. The land fades, the sea flocks silently away, and through the warm white cloud where he lies, silky, tingling, uneasy eastern music undoes him in a Japanese minute.
The afternoon buzzes like lazy bees round the flowers, round May Rose Cottage. Nearly asleep in the field of nanny goats who hum and gently butt the sun, she blows love on a puffball. He loves me, he loves me not. He loves me, he loves me not. He loves me. The dirty old fool. Lazy she lies alone in clover and sweet grass, 17 and had never been sweet in the grass or hoe.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins, inky in his cool front parlour or poem room, tells only the truth in his life work, the population, main industry, shipping, history, topography, flora and fauna of the town he worships in, the White Book of Larrigab, portraits of famous bards and preachers, all fur and wool from the squint to the kneecaps, hung over him as heavy as sheep, next to the faint lady watercolours of pale green milk wood, like a lettuce salad dying. His mother, propped against a pot in a palm with her wedding ring waist and bust like a black-clothed dining table, suffers in her stays.
Oh, angels, be careful there with your knives and forks.
He prays. There is no known likeness of his father Esau, who, undog-collared because of his little weakness, was scythed to the bone one harvest by mistake when he was sleeping with his weakness in the corn. He lost all ambition and died with one leg.
Poor Dad Reeves, the Reverend Eli, to die of drink and agriculture. Farmer Watkins in Salt Lake Farm hates his cattle on the hill as he hoes them in to milk him. Damn you, you damned dairies. A cow kisses him. Bite her to death, shouts to his deaf dog who smiles and licks his hand. Gore him, sit on him, Daisy. Calls to the cow who barbed him with her tongue, and she moos gentle words as he raves and dances among his summer-breed slaves, walking delicately to the farm. The coming of the end of the spring day is already reflected in the lakes of their great eyes. Bessie Bighead greets them by the names she gave them when they were maidens. Peg, Meg, Buttercup, Mole, Fan from the castle, Theodosia and Daisy. They bow their heads.
Look up Bessie Bighead in the White Book of Larrigab, and you will find the few haggard rags and the one poor glittering thread of her history laid out in pages there, with as much love and care as the lock of hair of a first lost love. Conceived in milkwood, born in a barn, wrapped in paper, left on a doorstep, big-headed and bass-voiced she grew in the dark until long-dead Gomer Owen kissed her when she wasn't looking, because he was dead. Now in the light she'll work, sing, milk, say the cow's sweet names, and sleep until the night sucks out her soul and spits it into the sky. In her lifelong low light, holy Bessie milks the fond lake-eyed cows as dusk showers slowly down over the byre, sea, and town. Utah Watkins curses through the farmyard on a cart horse,
Gallop, you bleeding cripple.
and the huge horse neighs softly as though he had given it a lump of sugar. Now the town is a disk. Each cobble, donkey, goose, and gooseberry street is a thoroughfare of dusk and ceremonial dust, and night's first darkening snow, and the sleep of birds drift under and through the live dusk of this place of love. Flagg is the capital of dusk. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, at the first drop of the dusk shower, seals all her sea-view doors, draws the germ-free blinds, sits erect as a dry dream on a high-backed hygienic chair, and wills herself to cold, quick sleep. At once, Mr. Ogmore and Mr. Pritchard, who, all dead day long, have been gossiping like ghosts in the woodshed, planning the loveless destruction of their glass widow, reluctantly sigh and sidle into her clean house.
You first, Mr. Ogmore. After you, Mr. Pritchard.
No, Mr. Ogmore. You widowed her first. And in through the keyhole, with tears where their eyes once were, they ooze and grumble.
Husband?
She says in her sleep. There is acid love in her voice for one of the two shambling phantoms. Mr. Ogmore hopes that it is not for him. So does Mr. Pritchard.
I love you both.
Oh, Mrs. Ogmore. Oh, Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it will be time to go to bed. Tell me your tasks in order.
We must take our pajamas from the drawer of pajamas.
And then you must take them off. Down in the dusking town, May Rose Cottage, still lying in clover, listens to the nanny goat tunes, draws circles of lipstick round her nipples. I'm fast. I'm a bad lot. God will strike me dead. I'm 17. I'll go to hell, she tells the goats. You just wait. I'll sin till I blow up. She lies deep, waiting for the worst to happen. The goats champ and sneer.
At the doorway of Bethesda House, the Reverend Jenkins recites to Larrigo Hill his sunset poem.
Every morning when I wake, dear Lord, a little prayer I make. Oh, please to keep thy lovely eye on all poor creatures born to die. And every evening at sundown I ask a blessing on the town. For whether we last the night or no, I'm sure it is always touch and go. We are not wholly bad or good who live our lives under milkwood, and thou, I know, wilt be the first to see our best side, not our worst. Oh, let us see another day, bless us all this night, I pray, and to the sun we all will bow and say goodbye, but just for now.
Jack Black prepares once more to meet his Satan in the wood. He grinds his night teeth, closes his eyes, climbs into his religious trousers, their flies sewn up with cobbler's thread, and pads out, torched and Bibled, grimly, joyfully, into the already sinning dusk.
Off to Gomorrah. And Lily Smalls is up to no good boyo in the washhouse.
And Cherry Owen, sober as Sunday as he is every day of the week, goes off happy as Saturday to get drunk as a deacon, as he does every night.
I always say she's got two husbands,
says Cherry Owen.
One drunk and one sober.
And Mrs. Cherry simply says,
and aren't I a lucky woman? Because I love them both. Evening, Cherry. Evening, Sinbad. What do you have? Too much. The sailor's arms is always open.
Sinbad suffers to himself, heartbroken.
Oh, Gossamer, open your...
Dusk is drowned forever until tomorrow. It is all at once night now. The windy town is a hill of windows, and from the lapped waves the lights of the lamps of the windows call back the day and the dead that have run away to the sea. All over the calling dark, babies and old men are bribed and lullabied to sleep.
Hush-a-bye, baby. The Sandman is coming. Rock-a-bye, grandpa, in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come grandpa, whiskers and all.
Or their daughters cover up the old unwinking men like parrots, and in their little dark, in the lit and bustling young kitchen corners, all night long they watch, beady-eyed, the long night through, in case death catches them asleep.
Unmarried girls alone in their privately bridal bedrooms powder and curl for the dance of the world. They make in front of their looking glasses haughty or come-hithering faces for the young men in the street outside, at the lamp-lit leaning corners, who wait in the all-at-once wind to wald and whistle.
The drinkers in the sailors' arms drink to the failure of the dance.
Down with the waltzing and the skipping. Dancing isn't natural.
Righteously, says Cherry Owen, who has just downed 17 pints of flat, warm, thin, Welsh bitter beer.
A farmer's lantern glimmers, a spark on Larragam hillside.
Larragam Hill, writes the Reverend Jenkins in his poem room.
Flaragham Hill, that mystic tumulus, the memorial of peoples that dwelt in the region of Flaragham before the Celts left the land of summer, and where the old wizards made themselves a wife out of flowers. Mr. Waldo, in his corner of the Sailor's Arms, sings.
In Pembroke City, when I was young, I lived by the castle keep. 6 a week was my wages for working for the chimbley sweep. 6 cold pennies he gave me, not a farthing more or less, and all the fare I could afford was parsnip, gin, and watercress. I did not need a knife and fork or a bib up to my chin to dine on a dish of watercress and a jug of parsnip gin. Did you ever hear a growing boy to live so cruel cheap on grub that has no flesh and bones and liquor that makes you weep? Sweep, sweep, chimbley sweep, I wept through Pembroke City, poor and barefoot in the snow, till a kind young woman took pity. Poor little chimbley sweep, she said, black as the ace of spades. Oh, nobody swept my chimbley since my husband went his ways. Come and sweep my chimbley, come and sweep my chimbley, she sighed to me with a blush. Come and sweep my chimbley, come and sweep my chimbley, bring along your chimbley brush. Blind Captain Cat climbs into his bunk. Like a cat, he sees in the dark. Through the voyages of his tears, he sails to see the dead.
Dancing Williams,
Still dancing.
Jonah Jarvis,
Still,
Curly Bevan's skull.
Rosie with God. She has forgotten dying.
The dead come out in their Sunday best.
Listen to the night breaking.
Organ Morgan goes to chapel to play the organ. He sees Bach lying on a tombstone.
Johann Sebastian. Oh, Johann Sebastian, mighty Bach. Oh, Bach, Bach. Ah, to hell with you.
Says Cherry Owen, who was resting on the tombstone on his way home. Mr. Mogg Edwards and Miss Muffanwy Price happily apart from one another at the top and the sea end of the town, write there every night letters of love and desire, In the warm white book of Flaraga you will find the little maps of the islands of their contentments.
Oh, my Mog, I am yours forever.
And she looks around with pleasure at her own neat, never-dull room, which Mr. Mog Edwards will never enter.
Come to my arms, Mafanui.
And he hugs his lovely money to his own heart. And Mr. Waldo, drunk in the dusky wood, hugs his lovely Polly Garter under the eyes and rattling tongues of the neighbours and the birds, and he does not care. He smacks his live red lips. But it is not his name that Polly Garter whispers as she lies under the oak and loves him back. 6 feet deep that name sings in the cold earth.
But I always think, as we tumble into bed, of little Willie Wee, who is dead, dead, dead.
The thin night darkens. A breeze from the creased water sighs the streets under milk-waking wood. The wood whose every tree foot's cloven in the black glad sight of the hunters of lovers, that is a God-built garden to Mary Ann sailors who knows there is heaven on earth, and the chosen people of his kind fired in Larricum's land, that is the fair day farm hand, wantoning ignorant chapel of brides' beds, and to the Reverend Eli Jenkins, a green-leaved sermon on the innocence of men. The suddenly wind-shaken wood springs awake for the second dark time this one spring.